let's turn some audio up, and then we can introduce. Howdy there, folks. Welcome back to another stream with me, Fluent Code, here in the UK, live. Very much. I figured it's been such a lovely day that I would leave the window open for a little bit later, and just sort of try and absorb some of that vitamin D that seems to be so hard to come by. Now, I had a lovely session yesterday. Yesterday, where we started work on some Eldar. Now, at the moment, we are churning out some test models, effectively, just to decide on what we're actually going to do with the colour scheme. Now, have a look here. We've got quite a nice blue going on either side. So these two guys, this one on the right has just plain Thalasar blue over the Wraithbone base, and this one here on the left has a little bit of shading added with some of the ultramarine blue over the Thalasar blue, again on a Wraithbone base. Now, I'm not actually decided on this yet, and the main reason being, I've still not given up on the idea of a Zephyr highlight. So what I've actually done is I've actually gone and sprayed another couple in black, you see, but that I am on a limited schedule when I get home from work. So they are currently sat out there cooling up, drying up. So I don't think we can realistically get them on the stream, you see, which is a real bummer, because I'd love to finish up this stream with a definitive how we're going to proceed. So we have our we do have some things that we have that definitive answer from. And I'll show you what I mean. And those things are as follows. Those things are, we have an army list we are going to work with. We don't look, actually, you can get it all on screen at once and not have to worry too much about my camera overlapping. So this is our army list. Our army list is as follows. We have a Farseer, 2 scout squads, 2 guardian squads, both of which are 9 guardians, 2 anti-grav platforms, a Viper and a Wolf, which is a nice mix. And then to cap it all off, I thought we would go ahead and take a little photo of what we have on the desk to work with. Now, these guys here are a nice mix of old models. This is a predominantly metal army. There are only two. There's only one plastic vehicle in the Viper, which will have a metal weapon, and then we've got 4 total plastic Guardians. So it's not bad. It is virtually a fully metal arm. Now, we're looking at this in terms of putting together a nice themed force. So the theme of the force will be an Eldar citizen levy, which is a predominantly Guardian based army. So, the War Walker is piloted by a Guardian, the Viper is piloted by Guardians, the Scouts are sneaky Guardians, the Guardians are Guardians, the heavy weapons platforms are crewed by Guardians, and the Farseer is a spooky Guardian. So you know, we're mostly there or thereabouts. What I do need to finalise though is how I'm going to achieve paint scheme. So what I'm going to do this evening is I am going to do a little bit. So this was my preferred. Hold on, I will switch back to the paint scene. This was my preferred model of the 3. The only problem that I've got is that I think, yeah, no, I definitely did go a bit too heavy on the contrast paint on his helm. So if you look at this one on the right, which is the darker Guardian, he's got a very nice even tone on his yellow. This guy, unfortunately, has taken quite a bit of stain, and I don't actually think that that's really going to be resolvable without completely repainting. So what I will have to be very careful of is, as we proceed, is to make sure that that we're doing everything we can to limit that stain. If we lose that, if we gain that stain, I'm not sure there's actually any way to solve it. So, with that in mind, we are going to see if we can do anything about that. And the way we're going to do that is do a little bit of painting. I know, actual painting with actual paints. Oh, you must be joking. Now, I've got a fairly good bit of light going on here, but eventually I'm going to lose this out of the window because it's still not quite that wonderful time of year when the light stays bright until 10 o'clock or whatever. Not far off. It's very nice out there, isn't it? It's beautiful. Right, well, bloody hell. This is a brand new pot of paint. This is Avalon Sunset base colour. It's quite thick out of the pot, to be honest with you. See, I'm quite used now to, recently I've just realised, bring the microphone back down so that everybody can hear you again, Fleur. That will help the stream. So, fingers crossed, everybody has noticed that the mic was in the wrong place, and now they're going to all point it out to me. So, yeah, this Avalon Sunset, just recently I've been using a pot of Corax White, which has come up. It's a base paint, but it is super thin, really, really thin. This is also a base paint, and I must admit I'm a little bit unfamiliar with how Citadel are marketing their paints at the moment. Is base paint, is that like the old foundation paints? I don't actually know. I know that the foundation paints are no more. They don't exist anymore, which I do find a bit of a shame because I actually felt that they were really, really nice paints. And the ones that I've got, unfortunately, have mostly suffered the old Citadel paint problem of, oh look, it's all dried up. What a surprise. So I'm just going to have a feel around with this paint, just trying to get a hang of it and see whether or not it's going to be useful to our army as we progress. Actually, that covers quite nicely for a yellow. A bit surprised about that because every yellow paint that I've ever had the misfortune of using has always been essentially dog shit when it comes to coverage. Whereas this actually seems to work quite nice. I mean, I am admittedly painting over yellow, so it's not like I'm painting it over a black base coat or something. So Now, like I say, this sort of staining here, I'm going to have to be quite careful about how I go about covering it, because it's in really the wrong place to allow me to easily cover it up. So it's going to remain quite prominent, kind of no matter what I do, unless my normal solution would be to lick the brush and then sort of blend it down, but I'm going to see if I can do it without licking the brush. My missus has referred to me as her little brush licker one too many times, so I'm going to try and throw off the stereotype if I can. I'll show her who's a brush licker. Okay, so because that staining is in quite a weird place, because I want to highlight here naturally towards where the helmet peaks, so this point of the helmet, but I also want to highlight up to here as well. So we are going to end up with this sort of naturally darker spot in the middle of the helmet, which is a bit weird. I think what I will have to do is, if I am going to use the contrast as a base, I'm going to have to be very, very careful how it goes on, so that we don't end up with that staining in the first place. Because that, I mean, it's what they refer to as coffee staining, but it's quite bad in that area. So I will have to be quite careful. We'll see if we can get away without doing it, and then the problem is solved, isn't it? No problem requires no solution, which is always a pretty good way of looking at it. Now, I'm not actually sure that this is light enough for a LATOC. This is quite matte and quite muted in colour, which, if we look at any of the LATOC source material, their yellow is very, very bright and vibrant. I mean, all of the Eldar in second edition were bright and vibrant, and in fact a lot of them carried that through into third, which is where a lot of the LATOC schemes come from. It's where we first sort of experienced that camouflage that I was talking about trying. I'd love to try that. Not sure if I'm a good enough painter to pull that off, but that's partly what this test model is for. I quite like the colour that we've achieved with the blue. I quite like the colour that we've achieved with the yellow, even if we have this staining that we're going to try and get rid of. Now, all I'm doing here is, in quite thin coats, working up to one colour. I'm not adding any white to it. I'm not adding any other shades of yellow, mostly because I don't actually have any other shades of yellow. As I've said before, since I sort of came back to the hobby a few years ago and discovered, I say a few years ago, I've been back in the hobby for, you know, I took a break about 15 years ago and then came back to the hobby. But since then, all of my paints have effectively dried up because they're Citadel paints, and that's what Citadel paints do. If there's one thing that Citadel make the best paints for, it's drying up in the pot. They are undisputed champions of that. I've only really since then brought contrast paints. So I am now trying to find my way in a world of actual paints when all I've got in my toolkit is contrast. Never mind, we will figure something out. And the way that we're going to do that is by lots of thin coats, layering it up a little bit at a time until we get a nice smooth colour, but also we'll get quite a light colour, because it's quite a punchy yellow, even if it does look very, very flat there. Okay, what are we thinking about that one now? Hello, Badger. I'm not actually sold on them yet. I like it. I'm not convinced. I need more experimentation, and so what I'm doing tonight and probably tomorrow. What day is it tomorrow? Possibly not tomorrow. I am very excited because I'm picking up my new car tomorrow, so I might not actually be streaming. So there's that. Yeah, it's Wednesday tomorrow, and I am picking up my new car. So I might not actually be streaming tomorrow. However, if I don't, then I will go on Thursday, because we've now set ourselves a schedule. It's not new, and it's probably not a very good life decision, but it's a Range Rover. I've had my eye on one for ages, and a guy I used to work with, I popped in to see him the other day, and he said, "Do you want to buy a Range Rover?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." Yes, it's a car that I have been wanting for quite some time. I'm fairly lucky in that I live opposite probably the best Range Rover mechanic in the country, who is more than happy to come and help out when I normally have to spend about 20 minutes swearing at something in the street, and then he'll come and help me fix it, which is quite a skill to have. So yeah. Right, all I've done here is I've added a little bit of Corax white to our yellow, and same size brush, but I'm going to try. Yeah, it's very, very helpful when you're looking at one. So, you know, the guy who I used to work with, he said, "Yeah, do you want to buy a Range Rover?" And I went, "Yeah, all right, let me take it for a test drive." So then I drove it to my house and showed my neighbour, and we went over it with a bit of a fine-tooth comb, and I came back an hour later and he goes, "I didn't think you were actually going to go out for like a full test drive. I thought you were literally going to take it round the block." And I explained to him that we'd given it the once over, and you know, yeah, sure, I'll buy it off of you. So I'm having that tomorrow. So it will be a wacky, crazy adventure of spending lots of money on that rather than anything else. But it's cool. If it turns out to be an absolute money pit, then I'll tart it up and make it somebody else's problem. Oh, slipped a bit there. Right, I'm just going to see if we can get a yellow that we're happy with. See, now, before the idea of doing this on stream, my my go-to for painting something like this would be, how do we paint these guys as quickly and efficiently as possible? But now the idea that I'm going to create this army on stream has sort of occurred. It's very weird, very weird. Now, do you think your problem with cars may have been the loose nut behind the steering wheel? Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. As I said, it's dad joke o'clock. On the subject of which tomorrow is, as long as it's actually driving when we pick it up, I will be taking the missus and the little one out for a slap up McDonald's to celebrate the fact that we'll never have money again. Just need to be careful here. I'm gonna try and do. Oh, I hate it when the innuendo comes so easy. But I'm gonna try and do a little shiny tip. Now you see, that is the thing with when it comes to Warhammer. I already own more than I could ever feasibly paint, so I have enough Warhammer to last me forever. I can stream from now until they turn the internet off with the Warhammer that I already have in my collection, so I don't really have too much of a worry about how much money I'm going to spend on Warhammer. Which I suppose is a form of financial security, really. It's basically the same thing as having a really good mortgage, isn't it? Right. We are going to add just the tiniest amount more thorax white, and then that will be our highlights done, because it's already more than I planned on doing. But I suppose at some point I might actually have to consider changing to a smaller brush as well. But all we are probably going to do with the rest of this face is a little highlight like that, a little bit at the bottom of his visor here. Just outline his top of his eye, and then we'll paint in his eye, and the mouth guard will be a different colour. I never really liked when people painted that mouth guard in the same colour as the rest of the helmet. So we're just gonna just the tip there. Yeah. A little bit here, and then a tiny bit here as well. So that's our highlights there done, and then we're just going to blend that up here. So I imagine the there was a number of different like pirate schemes that people experimented with, mostly on the older Rogue Trader models. unfortunately, I think that might have gone far too desaturated. So the only solution is, of course, more yellow. Now, this is a trick that I do really like. For contrast paints, this is something I love for contrast paints, which is you just ignore the fact of how they work as a contrast paint, and you put they only work as a contrast paint when you have loads on the brush. If you just have a little bit on the brush, they are just a really lovely thin paint. And hopefully what we can do here is just glaze over the whole thing and restore the saturation on that yellow. So when we're just using it to scrub over the top, it doesn't do any of the pooling, it doesn't do any of the drawing away. It literally just goes on as a really vibrant glaze. I love them for that. I think it's just really nice, because when you do like proper glazing with standard paints, you can end up with quite a chalky texture as well, whereas this, it's just like well, it's like an old wash basically. But even then, I don't actually think that the yellow wash looked that good. Now that has properly... I'm going to have to do something with my camera, because there's a bit of an issue with the white balance. But that has properly put a lot of the saturation back into that yellow. I'm quite happy with that. So what was my process there? My process was Avalon Sunset with 2 additions of white, and then coming back and glazing. Well, it's not like we've picked a nice simple paint scheme that's going to be over and done with in 5 minutes, like, you know, grabbing contrast paints and saying, there we go. Is it a better job than the contrast paint that we literally did exactly that? I don't know. I can't. Can you tell which one's which? Which one I just spent 30 minutes painting, and which one I did last night in like less than a minute? I don't know. I don't know if you can. Well, I can, because it's the one that's on the paint handle. But you know, if we do the 3 P's trick. Which one was it, guys? Yeah, I know, of course. But okay. Does it look better than that one? That's the question. Because that one, I didn't get the staining on this one. I made sure that when I painted it on, there wasn't an awful lot of pooling. And I think that one actually looks a lot cleaner than doing it that way. So maybe what I'll try and do is I will go with the darker yellow helmet. So we'll use the darker yellow helmet, which was the Nasdreg yellow. We will be very careful to make sure that we get no staining. So we'll paint it on very thin, and literally limit our loaded brush to the areas where we want it to pool a little bit, but make sure that the rest of this is just so that it's coloured. I think that's what we'll do. However, I'm still not sold on what we're going to do for the blue armour. So right now we're going to have a little a little teaser, a little play around with this guy's blue armour and just see if we can come up with some way of adding camouflage to him. The way I'm thinking is to effectively stipple in a way. It's not quite going to be stippling because that's probably going to be a bit too random. Not random looking, but odd looking. We're going to try with this paint here. This is Macragge Blue. Let's see how it looks when we're done. See how it looks. Let's try something, see how we get on, shall we? Because if we fail, that's what these test models are for, which is, I haven't actually done this in a long time. In fact, I cannot remember the last time that I sat there and painted tester models to do a whole army, because I haven't done whole armies in a long time. Now this is a, no worries bud, I very much appreciate you dropping by. If you don't make it back by the end, I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll hope to catch you on your next stream. Shout out to Badger, everyone. I don't have a shout out command on the channel, but I'm sure you all know what that means, which is go check him out. He paints some lovely figures, occasionally at a very slow pace. I'm joking, man. Cheers, man. I appreciate that, and I'm sure we will have a lovely time. And I'll either catch you tomorrow evening or on Thursday if I'm not about. Right. What I want to achieve here is semi-random blobs, because what we're going to do then is we are going to add another colour to the mix. And when I say another colour, I don't actually have another blue to add. So what we'll do is we will add a little bit of white to this blue. And then we will have a 3-tone camo, which will hopefully how does that need to happen? I want to try and limit it to what looks like the hard armor plates of this model. Which to me look to be, it looks like these van braces are a hard armor plate, so we're going to sketch in some shapes on here. I want it to try and look reasonably random, but there's always a possibility that he's going to end up looking a bit like a colour stunted Dalmatian of some sort. Or you know, somebody where they've taken a Dalmatian and pushed the white balance in completely the wrong direction. So we've done the van braces, the shoulder pads, the chest plate. I need to do this portion on his back here. Okay, We've done his knee pads. We've done these little plates on the front here. I'm not going to try and do this, his weird six-pack, which I did always find kind of weird. But and then I'm going to do these panels on the backs of his legs as well. They are quite small panels for this, to be honest with you. I can't get too many random splodges on there and maintain the size of the splodges without them looking extremely tiny. But that's fine. Now, what I'm going to do is take a little piece of, again, Corax white. I don't want to mess too much with the... I don't want to add too many different tones. I just want it to be sort of shades of the same tone. Is that right? Shades of the same tone or tones of the same shade? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Either or. Whoa, that's too much. Or is it? Do I want to go quite light with the last colour? And do I want to change it from splodges to maybe go quite light and then just add dots of it near to where we've got the darker tones? That could work. That then looks quite sort of like a digital type camo. So the idea is that we get quite a sort of varied camo going. What I am a bit worried about is the fact that this will just look like a mess. It's just going to look slapdash. Yeah, I don't know if it's working, to be honest with you. I think the solution here might actually be to paint a solid base tone rather than contrast. It's an experiment we're going to have to work on. We're going to have to see how this pans out, but now, I don't know if any of you play like video games like World of Tanks. A few years ago, they actually did a Twitch promotion where you could earn the T-34 American heavy tank on the console. So I don't play it on PC. One, I find the launcher just utterly terrible for any World of Wargaming game, and two, my PC's not particularly powerful anymore. It's an older thing, and as they have updated the graphics engine, it's a little bit more demanding, and I have found that when I have tried to play it, I get quite a lot of lag. However, on the console, they ran a Twitch tie-in where you could earn this tank, and the special colour scheme that they had that you could earn at the same time, it was almost identical to this one. It's probably a story that's not going to relate with hardly anybody, I would have thought, but it's just striking me now because this white that I've added, don't know why, but these tones almost feel purple, and it was very much a purpley type camo, and it just very much reminds me of this. Now, what are we thinking? So we have knee pads, van braces, chest, shoulder pads, prototype backpack, and the calf plate things. I don't know. I do not know. I wonder so next experiment with it is, how about we try the darker blue, the ultramarines blue, thinned down like we had it yesterday, where we painted it on this guy, but we try and keep it painted to the areas where the undersuit would be, so we don't get any on there. We paint it in where his weird six-pack would be, on his arms, his hands, etc., and try that. I think that might be worth an experiment, unless we try and darken down these armor. So we would leave. No, I quite like the idea of darkening the undersuit. I actually had good experience in the past with painting the undersuits of these guys almost in a black. I wonder if that's not actually dark enough. No, if it depends on how much I thin it. It's okay. This is all good. This is a learning curve. This is an experiment to see how we're going to end up painting these models. And I would love to spend a few extra minutes here now messing it up, rather than go and paint the whole lot and mess those up. You know, I'm sure you get what I'm saying. Right, we are going to thin this. So now we're going to try and thin this at a ratio. Yesterday we tried to thin this at a rate of 3:1, and we ended up with a really, really pale colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2:1, so 2 brushfuls of the medium, and then a brushful of the paint. Still looks pretty dark, to be fair. So let's see if we can glaze this on quite carefully and darken down our undersuit enough that those armor panels look good. And we also do need to possibly evaluate the fact that this might be easier and simpler if we just went for a solid paint base tone rather than contrast. What's that? Easier to paint it with normal paints than contrast. Impossible. Okay, I'm quite liking that effect. We're still achieving a bit of the contrast effect. We're taking the really, really bright blue and toning it down a little bit, enough so that the armor plates, the highest tones on there, where it is still the bright blue, actually stands out from the undersuit, which is perfect. That's exactly what we were trying to do. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, it's a long way shy of that, but as we were saying, a little bit of time invested now and get us a nice effect later on, and probably save us a lot of time in the long run. This is where I'm going to regret painting these assembled, which is weird because I've never regretted painting assembled monopose models, because they're not actually supposed to be a complicated model to paint. What is going on here? I'm going to carry on getting stuff on there though, aren't I? Let's try getting from this. That works. That works. I can aim it just in there without getting too much on his van brace. I'm just going to put a tiny bit around that gem. Probably shouldn't have done that because that's maybe spoiled now. Now we're going to go around his arms. And there is an argument that there are plates on his arms, but you're wrong and you should feel bad for thinking that way. That's just the world-renowned Super Eldar muscles that you can see on display there. Now I'm just going to pop a tiny bit in there as well, even though that is technically cabling. So we would probably have been better to not do that and to leave it and paint it black. How does that look? What do we think? I quite like it. I'm quite pleased with that look. Is the camo visible enough? Is there enough on the camo to make it noticeable? Do they just look like jazzy space elves? I don't think it's a bad attempt. I think that as far as camouflage goes, camouflage is always really, really difficult, I've found. To get consistent... I'll tell you what. I think that the lighter spots need to go a shade lighter. I think they need to almost go up to pure white. And then what I'm wondering, instead of having all that faff about painting all of this, whether or not at that point we could just go over with a what about here's another alternative, another idea, which is that we highlight all of these armor. So we put a coat of the base on, we highlight all of these panels to bring them a shade lighter, then we paint the camouflage on, and then we hit the whole thing with another coat of the same ultramarines blue thin. Do you know what? I actually don't like that idea. I don't like the idea. I think that what we've got there is quite a nice... I don't know if it looks great on camera, but here in front of me it actually looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. I like it. Right, I am going to take a very, very short break. I need to change the lighting up in here. I need to draw these curtains, and I'm going to run down and grab the undercoated models that one undercoated model, because I've only got one, I think. I'll bring that back up here, and we might just try another colour scheme in the latter half of the string. So bear with me for just a moment and I will be back. Howdy folks, welcome back. I do apologise for the extended break there. Just a quick nip down to the shed. It's not that far, but still. Now I have, oh look, I managed to spray my hand. Good, excellent, that's just what I needed. Ready for work tomorrow. So I've only got one further miniature painted up. Now the only real difference here is that this guy is done in grey cere rather than wraithbone. Now I'm going to go for a very quick, very simple, very dirty paint of the three colours that we decided on yesterday, and we will see if they work okay on grey cere as well as they do on wraithbone. Not going to go for the ultramarines blue. We're not thinning anything. We are literally just going to put on exactly the same coat as what we tried the other day. Now the other models that I have, I've got 3 more models downstairs. Downstairs, as if you know where that is, as if you know what my setup is. Oh, hang on. That's the crap stuff that you shouldn't be seeing. That's, you know, the massive mountain of hobby stuff that is rightly called the pile of shame. So the other ones that I've got downstairs are actually black undercoated with a zenithal, and I've got one of them where I've zenithalled with grey cere, and the others where I've zenithalled with just a cheap pound shop grey primer, which I would much prefer to use because I don't know if anybody has noticed exactly how many kidneys it does cost to buy cans of spray paint from Games Workshop, which is a bit of a problem when the pound shops will sell it to you for, well, I say pound shops, places like Home Bargains and what have you will sell you a can of black spray paint for £2. They will sell you a can of grey spray paint for, you guessed it, £2. They will, even if you're really nice to them, sell you a can of silver spray paint for £2, rather than the like £9 that Games Workshop want for a tin of grey primer. It used to be the case that Halfords was the go-to. That was the place to go to buy your miniature spray paint, and unfortunately it just doesn't work anymore. The Halford stuff is like £6, the Games Workshop stuff is like £9, and it's these cheap old, I mean, we call them tut shops here. You just buy shit in them, mostly shit that people who watch The Only Way is Essex think makes for a good looking home. So everything is silver and grey and it says live, laugh, love on everything. But those sort of shops, they actually sell spray paint and it's ridiculously cheap when you compare it to these other places that you can get it. There's me having my little rant. It's okay, I'm fully done now. I am ranted out. I promise no more ranting for at least 20p or until somebody sticks another pound in me. I don't know if I'm being a little bit more careful with this one than I was with the ones yesterday, and I don't know whether that's actually going to reflect on the end model or not. Look at me, maybe I'm being biased. Do you think I have a spray paint bias, chat? Am I treating one better than the other? It could be. I do actually have a bit of a soft spot for my cheap paint and zenithal priming. They have been incredibly helpful to me with my D&D miniatures, using that method. And I think I sort of anticipated that I would be doing the same thing with my Eldar army, just maybe taking it a little bit further on the, you know, the sort of extra steps that I've added, that sort of thing. Maybe I wasn't planning extra steps. I can't really recall what I was sort of tempted to do here with this army. I think it might have just been a case that now that I'm streaming it, I don't care. I just want it set down and painted. It's taken me so long to actually do anything with this army. As I say, this was my very first army. My very first Warhammer miniature was bought for the Eldar. It was a jet bike, in case you're wondering. And it cost me £5. 5 whole British pounds. Which was still a reasonable amount of money back. I'm sure it was a fiver. For one plastic jet bike. There was no option to make it a Shrieker, because the Shrieker bikes were a blister pack, I believe, an upgrade, because they didn't do a bike squadron. You had to buy individual bikes, and then the Shrieker bike was, I'm sure the Shuriken Shrieker was a blister pack upgrade. I can't actually remember now. But I bought a jet bike as my very first miniature, and then quite soon realised that if I wanted to use it, I would need at least another 4 of them. Which, when you're 11, is quite a disappointing introduction to capitalism. Oh, look at this amazing thing. Oh, yeah, now you need a whole load more of them. Oh, okay. Mum! Right. That is a powerful blue, isn't it? That blue is something else. I'm very much a fan of that blue. I never thought that I would find a use for contrast Talassar blue outside of maybe a Lizardman skink. Anyone else think that? I'll tell you what, I might actually like that over Grey Seer more than I do over Wraithbone. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, folks. We only gone and done it. We've only gone and made another model that we prefer. Okay, I mean, this is experiment night. This is where we're trying to figure out things. Weirdly enough, I won't actually be using these models as part of the army. These monopose plastics with the upgraded metal shuriken catapult, I don't actually class these as second edition miniatures, because this is the redesigned shuriken catapult with a stick magazine, rather than the original shuriken catapult with a drum magazine. Now these ones are a bit disgusting. They have been in the dip. I assure you that what looks like a layer of scuzz is not. It is just paint that refuses to budge. And these bad boys have been upgraded with the shuriken catapult off of the old Eldar weapon sprue. And these ones have actually been done really quite well, and they're solid as a rock. So when they went in the stripper, they didn't come apart, which is a bit unusual. And you can see where the conversion has actually been done really, really well. The reason I'm saying this is because I don't think I actually did these. I think I painted these originally, because these have actually been painted with enamels. There's a silver enamel on his helmet there, which I think I did back when I was 11 or so, and the only paints that I had access to were my old Humbrol enamels. And so, of course, I went ahead and gave them a coat of that. And I think I gave them silver helmets, because silver helmets are proper cool. But I think these were actually converted by my dad. After I left home, and I left the majority of my collection at home, he obviously put it all to one side. He didn't chuck it away. He very much became part of the hobby. He had a bigger pile of shame than I ever did, and he actually painted a lot of his. He got his pile of shame down quite far. He had a huge Imperial Guard army. He had a huge Talan Desert Raider army. A very large Dark Angels army, and various other bits and pieces. Brings back some memories, to be fair, which I don't often chat about on stream. But yeah, I think he did that, and not only that, but I think he actually did it to 3 of these guys. So these guys will be featuring in my army. And when you actually think about it, that's quite a conversion, because the hand was moulded onto the original las gun, and the hand had a socket in it to take the arm. So he's had to cut the hand away. He's had to cut the hand out of the las gun, and the hand is set. Yeah, that's yeah. So we won't be using these guys. We will be using the older metal guys. So we have that one, that guy. There's a couple of each of these. And then we have this guy as our sort of squad second in command, and we're even going to have a squad leader, this guy, which is a lovely model. I love this sort of modelled in, built into his arm, Evil Dead style chainsaw. I think that's very cool indeed. So that will be our Guardians, our Shuriken Catapult Guardians. Our lasgun armed Guardians will have one of these old dudes with the original lasgun, and then a bunch of these guys. I have two different types, these guys with their lasguns, and then a squad leader and a second in command. So yeah, that's how they're going to go. Now that guy there, his lasgun isn't actually couched in his hand properly, but I don't care. I'm not going to change it. That's the way it goes. Now that guy, I did actually rather enjoy painting him. Not bad. Evening, Mouldy. It goes very well. How about yourself? So you're coming back to the stream and everything has changed, I'm afraid. We have gone over to the dark side a little bit, in that I am experimenting around with my very, very old Warhammer 40k army. This is a very, very old bunch of figures. And we're going to build and paint a Warhammer army live on stream. I know. Don't worry, the D&D stuff will still crop up from time to time. It's not done and dusted, but we are now transitioning a lot of the D&D stuff into the point where it can actually be photographed. So I've been painting bases, posting the pictures up on Discord and what have you, and then adding that onto our Instagram. So yeah, hopefully you'll have caught some of those. But how are you? Right, I think this guy is probably, because we took a little bit of time to do him and we didn't slap it on willy-nilly. There's a little bit down here which still needs to dry out, but hopefully we won't have to get close to that. You can just sort of skirt around the edges of that. I think that means that we can probably which one do we do first? Let's do the skeleton horde, which is for the wraithbone of the weapons. Yeah, it's I know. Well, that's a shame. I mean, have you actually worked out what you're going to stream next, or are you just putting it off? And I'm interested to hear what you're coming up with for your D&D adventure writing, because I did rather enjoy the one shot that you ran before. So if you are ever thinking about getting it to the point where you want somebody to play test, or you want to actually recruit some players, you know where I am. And I promise I won't bring a meme character like I normally do. I have actually got some proper Oh, come on, tell us what's next. Tell us what's next on your stream, mouldy, because I am keen to watch you spend 74 attempts killing another boss, or was it just the 73 attempts? I can't remember. Again, I still haven't sorted out the chat commands for shout outs, but I'll give a verbal shout out to Mouldy. He is part of the group that I play D&D with, but he's also quite an accomplished streamer of his own, who has done something like a 105 session Elden Ring adventure, or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly how many. All I know is it's a boatload. So do feel free to check out his channel. It's quite a good one. I do like the effort that you put into your streams as well, though. You know, the little extra bits. Right. Now, here's a tricky one again, because using the grey sear undercoat creates a slightly colder tone. So we've got a slightly colder tone here on the Wraithbone style gun. This one is a bit warmer. Oh no, I've got a little bit on his helmet, so we're not going to get a proper... Never mind, we'll work it out. Yeah, so you get quite a bit of a colder effect on the weapon. And I don't know whether that's good or not. See what I mean there? Between the two? Perhaps not. The white balance on this camera is a little bit off. And again, I keep talking about trying to tweak it, but every time I do, it sort of... It washes out or fades another colour. So I might have to look up like some tutorial on how to set the white balance right for a camera, as opposed to just randomly picking at the sliders like that I'm randomly going to discover how to do it properly. Okay, I don't take this the wrong way. I never had you down as a sort of run and gun Twitch style player. The sort of Elden Ring thing seemed a lot more your style, but I think watching you play Titanfall would be amazing. I think it would be really, really good. So yeah, when you think you're next going to go live with it, give us a shout and I'll be sure to give you a watch. From what I've heard, it's an incredible game as well. So yeah, you're probably not wrong there. It's probably quite a good one. Right, now I'm going to be quite careful with this yellow, because as we discovered, we don't want it to leave that sort of coffee stain. We want to try and get a bit of the contrast effect going, so we are going to put a little bit of it on, but we don't want it... Yeah, that's probably too much. Maybe. Right, let's just try it on the helmet. And just trying here to limit, so to get quite a smooth coat of this, because as we found earlier, we did what we thought was quite a good coat yesterday, and then it's left a huge amount of staining, which we then had to spend about 5 different layers fixing, and I'm still not entirely happy with how that's fixed. So what do we think? That was the good one from yesterday, and that was the one that we had to go fixing. Maybe it will dry clear, I don't know. Leo, not yet. I haven't. We are still on the experimentation phase. I'm trying to get the right recipe, and then we will be moving on to we're going to do a full-on paint. I think that's right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, the story on it is quite good. I think maybe the reason that is that I've only ever really seen you stream. Yeah, yes, Leo, that's what we were trying to achieve there. Now I've gone and put him down, so I can't actually pick him back up again. We'll see how even that dries, but it has dried a little bit streaky already. Yeah, could do. I've had reasonable success in the past with a Q-tip. That's probably been allowed to dry a little bit too much. Yeah, and if you do, you've just got to be ready to accept the fact that it might do it. I'm not averse to the idea of coming back and doing highlights on them. Yeah, possibly. So this is the recipe for, yeah, quite possibly. So this one was quite heavily stained, and we went back, and what we did was we highlighted this up. We used Avalon Sunset with a couple of layers of adding Corax White, and then because that desaturated quite a lot of it with the white, we went back with the brighter yellow and just glazed it over the top, which gives us a reasonably smooth effect. I'm not particularly looking for quickness here. This one we've also experimented with adding our camouflage, of which I feel we might need to go one step lighter with the lighter splotches. I think they could do with a tiny bit of extra white in them, just to bring the lightest part of those splotches up, and then that will actually look like a relatively good digital camo. So that's what we've got. So there's Macragge blue with the little addition of some Corax White, and I think we need to add a little bit more Corax White in there. So yeah, that's kind of it was Macragge blue with Corax White added to it, so it keeps the same tone and varies the shade. No, keeps the same shade and varies the tone. But I think that's the recipe that we're going to go for. I'm just now trying it out. This is over Grey Seer rather than over Wraithbone. The equivalent of enchanted blue of your is Kaeldor Sky. Okay. I mean, to be fair, I've got enchanted blue somewhere, so I could just use that. But it's not necessarily a case of doing a completely period correct. It's more just trying to create from what I have on hand, which at the moment is Macragge blue and contrast paints, because that's all I've really got. I will be adding to my collection again. Basically, I spent so long not doing any painting that all of my paints have dried up, and the only things that I've really got left are contrasts. So I've been out the other day, I spent 20 quid getting some decent starter colours, yeah, we'll be working our way up from there. Yeah, I mean, it's not a completely desaturated colour. It's a mid-tone blue. It's not a really dark blue. That's pretty much a mid-tone blue. And yes, mixing in white will desaturate it, but the idea is that that we maintain similar tone, similar shade, different tones. So yes, there will be some desaturation in there, but I don't think it's too much of an issue. And then we'll come along with a tiny little bit of probably not quite pure white. In fact, I might just try it with a few little dots of pure white and see how they come out. Because again, this is experimentation phase. Whoop. So all we're going to do is just a very tiny amount of paint, very small brush. And then we're just going to dot on where we think. It doesn't need to be too tiny dots. We don't want them looking too uniform either. If these do look too stark, I might even wash this back with a tiny bit of our original Talisar, just to see where it leaves us. I think though that is going to add a little bit to our contrast. Which is, I think, what was missing from this camo. The three shades that we had just weren't quite enough to create proper sort of contrast. Okay, now let's rinse that brush, close that up, and then we can have a look at that a little bit closer. I think that has created a little bit of the contrast that we were missing on the armour panels there. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. It's not a particularly complicated camo scheme, but they are bright blue and yellow, so at the end of the day it's not as if we're going for ultra realism out of this one. Now this guy, yeah, I would need to oh, you're using inks for your yellow, right? I see. Yeah, I might have to see if I can dig out some of my old inks. I don't know if I've still got yellow ink. Have to have a look. This is the one that was painted over grey sear. Now I actually feel that the blue has come out nicer, the yellow not so much. So I think the blue looks better, the yellow not so much. The bone, I'm not sold either way, to be honest with you, because as I said, one of them comes up cool and one of them comes up quite warm, and I think I prefer the warm look, which is a shame because I don't have much Wraithbone spray left. So when it comes to painting up the rest of them, I might have to go out and invest in some. It's not too much of a problem. I can nip down to the FLGS and pick up a decent couple of cans to get myself ready for this. Now, yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I do think I prefer the blue on the colder base, and I prefer the no. I've told you I have Macragge blue and contrast paints. I have a small set of actual real paints. I do actually have Mornfang Brown. Screaming Skull, no. What the hell has gone on with that one? That one's open already. Might take that back, because I bet you that's gone off. Yep, brilliant. God, I hate Citadel paints. yeah, no, I've got Mornfang. I'd need to invest in the other ones. That paint, the lid is just absolutely atrocious. I'm going to take that back because that won't even seal. Excellent. I've got 2 pots of Mornfang brown. That one's quite a lot older, to be honest with you. No, Screaming Skull I don't have. I can't remember what I actually got the other day, but it wasn't a huge collection of them, I'm afraid, because unfortunately 20 quid doesn't go very far when you're buying Citadel paints. What was the what were you going to? Mornfang Brown, Zamisi Desert and Screaming Heart. I'm assuming you were talking about a recipe for bone colour. So start off Mornfang, Desert Highlight, Screaming Skull, Edge or something like that. Yeah, I will probably keep it simpler than that. In that I will come up with a solution for the weaponry if I decide to go with the grey seer undercoat. I'm not terribly happy with the way the yellow has come out on the grey seer. I think it's going to look quite a bit more work to get it a reasonably bright colour, whereas the Wraithbone is already pretty much there, to be honest with you. Okay, so we do have, as I was saying, we do have a nice little oh, hang on, what's this? What's happened? We do have ourselves an army list to work towards. It is slightly tweaked from what we were discussing yesterday on New Recruit. That's how this was built, by the way, on New Recruit, so we're still pretty much there. We have a Farseer, 2 Scout squads, 2 Guardian squads, and then we've got 2 weapons platforms, a Viper, because I decided that I might actually need some speed in the army, and a War Walker. As it stands, we do have infiltration, because we've got 2 squads of Scouts, where it's allowed. We do have relatively strong base unit of 2 squads of Guardians. We have a decent chunk of psychic power. We have a decent chunk of firepower. And now we have a little bit of speed in the list with the addition of the Viper as well. I went with the las cannon because that always becomes a bit of a threat if you can dump that behind somebody. Yeah, so that's our models there, ready to go. So we'll be tidying them up, spray painting them, and then we'll get started on our batch production. So that's the plan. Hopefully it's a decent plan. Hopefully we'll be able to turn out quite a nice army. And if I'm right, it's a case of we have got the start of a decent looking recipe there. I will have to have a tweak around with what's going to happen with bases and things like that. But yeah, it's a start of a decent looking army. And I say it's thematic as well, because we've got the it is a guardian levy, a citizen levy, so a guardian army, which is something I've always wanted to achieve. Anyway, I am actually going to call it a night there, mostly because I don't have anything more to paint. It's it's Wednesday tomorrow. I am hopefully, well, I say hopefully, I should be picking up my new car and then taking the family out to dinner. So I may be back in time to stream. If not, I will be going on Thursday night. But hopefully we'll be going tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going to end the stream there, and we will pick up, fingers crossed, tomorrow, 8 o'clock UK time. Failing that, if I'm not here tomorrow, I will come back on Thursday and we'll get a little bit more done. But Thursday is normally my evening off, so we'll have to see how this one plays out. Thank you very much for everybody who's attended. I do hope you will stick around as we go and find somebody to drop in on. Let's just see who we've got out there at the moment. Who's doing some nice? Thank you very much, Mouldy. I very much appreciate it. I'll tell you what, guys, let's drop in on... This is a slight change from the norm, because I'm not going to drop in on a fellow miniatures and models. So I do appreciate if you don't like it, but this is a great little fun stream where the guy plays a lot of retro video games, so a lot of PlayStation 2, that sort of stuff. It's a good bit of fun. Do try out some of the fairly cheap channel point spends, because they are quite good fun. So guys, I would appreciate it if you drop in on Super Gamer Pals. And with that, folks, I say thank you very much and good night.